song when I have a guest, but it was playing in my mind this morning when I was looking at the political climate in the country. And I was thinking to myself, sweet love. And I decided that because we're going to have this teddy bear of a man, uh, and the smile of, of that lights up a room, the MMC for finance in the city of Joburg. Now, this man, when we get into the show a little bit more, I'll explain. When he came in, I didn't know how to address him because he's the MMC for finance, but he's also Professor Dagada, but he's also Dr. Dagada, and that's a legitimate one because it's not an honorary doctorate. He actually earned his doctorate in systems, in IT systems. So you do get called Dr. Dagada. But before we start our interesting subject today, we've got a message from the city of Joburg that we want to share with you. At 10 o'clock on Wednesday, the 3rd of May 2017, the executive mayor of the city of Joburg, Councillor Herman Mashaba, will be delivering the annual State of the City address. Listen live on your favorite community radio station, in this case, Kofifi FM 97.2, and watch proceedings live on Soweto TV and Business Day TV. For more information, visit www.joburg.org.za. And those of you who want to share today with us in our interactive discussions that we have, SMS us and WhatsApp us on 071 425 9577, Facebook Kofifi FM 97.2, Twitter at Kofifi FM _972, Instagram at Kofifi FM. And on if you have access to YouTube, we're streaming live on Kofifi TV, Conversations with Rosemary. Welcome, Dr. Dagada, Professor Dagada, MMC Dagada. You'll answer to all.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, you are the MMC for finance. And I read a paper of yours. But before we start our conversation, like I said, we're not just going to talk about the city per se. I'm going to be picking your mind. It's a very big mind. So there's if I pick a small bit of it, it won't suffer any damage. But I don't know if you're aware, because this article just came up now, and I thought I'd share it with you. It's very disturbing, and that's why we need love. And it's just come out that South Africa ranks a lowly 16th among the top 19 fastest growing countries in Africa. We're number 16 from the bottom out of 19. That's how badly we are performing presently. Mauritius is at the top, performing at 230% growth. Ethiopia, second at 219% growth. Rwanda, third at 107% growth. Uganda, 97% growth. Kenya, 93% growth. DRC, 85% growth. Angola, 82% growth. Tanzania, 82% growth. South Africa, 8%. What do you say?
That's very bad. It can be contributed to the fact that as a country, we have neglected crucial sectors, especially when it comes to manufacturing. So every year, lots of manufacturing companies, the firms, they close shop, and most of our people are retrenched. And because of that, we almost import everything, a pencil, a needle, a toilet paper. We have to import that from other countries. But secondly, we are also now starting to decline in terms of agriculture. So most of your food in your cupboard, in your fridge, 80% of that has been imported.
What?
So that is a problem. We're becoming a net importer of food.
But we used to be a net exporter of food.
Yes, I think it has something to do with political economy issues, public policy issues. What is even worse, you'll know that Johannesburg is a seat of gold. And at some point, we were number one gold producer
in the world.
Now we are sitting at around number 4. Why? Does it mean that gold is getting depleted? It's partly because we are not as digging as we used to do. But the other problem is, after digging anyway, whether it's platinum, whether it's gold, we ship it out of the country. We get very little money out of shipping the raw materials because it's not processed. So ideally, we should have been digging it out, process it into finished goods, then send it outside. That way, we'll achieve a lot because then it means we'll create lots of jobs. So if you go to Asia, they have lots of uneducated people, unskilled labor. But when you have a manufacturing firm, somebody must push a wheelbarrow physically. You don't need any university degree. We don't have that. So most of our jobs have become office kind of jobs. But having said that, we've done well in one sector, which is services sector. The banks, the IT. But the question is, how many jobs can we produce through the services sector? Very few jobs. And that is a problem.
Now, coincidentally, I wanted to tell people more about you, the person. And we're still going to continue talking, but I have to say this because I'm not in awe of many people. I'm too old to be in awe of people. But when I wanted to tell people about you and your academic accomplishments, there were 2 pages. And this isn't your CV, this is your qualifications. So I decided that, look, I can't do this. I know you were offered the position of Vice Chancellor of the University of Venda. You are Associate Professor of Information and Communication Technology at Valtech, Independent Advisor to the Information and Communications Technology Governance Committee, Policy Fellow for the South African Institute of Racial Relations, and the list just goes on and on and on. And congratulations, you are a role model because you started off from poverty.
Yes.
And from poverty here today, we don't know whether to call you Doctor, Professor, MMC, or anything else. And for that, I'm asking parents and our youth, do not use poverty as an excuse because it's a feeble excuse. But let's go back to this now. We've now been declared junk status, and you wrote a very enlightening paper on this that came out 2 weeks ago in the Sunday Press and the Business Day. But there's Professor Hausman, a former Venezuelan that's now at Harvard University, said something very important that tied in with your paper. He says that the story being told in South Africa is a very bad lie, because what is happening now is you've got people fighting over business that exists rather than fighting over creating new businesses. And that's the narrative, that's the political narrative that's coming out, is I want what you've got and not what can I create. Now, you wrote this paper. It was very well thought out on us having been downgraded to junk status. I want you to share with us, what does junk status mean for the country? What are the impacts on it for the city of Joburg in particular, where you are the MMC for finance, how it's affecting everything that you're planning to do? For example, when you came into office, the mayor declared that he wants to have 5% growth. In light of this, how does it affect that? And the narrative of fighting over what exists than rather what we should be creating. And I've given you a long list, but you've got a big brain.
Yes. Thank you. You see, I'll start with what we have just said. We are obsessed with redistribution of wealth. instead of creation of new wealth. It is very, very possible that as a nation we can create new wealth. So if you look at countries in Asia, most of them, they were very poor, including China. China doesn't even have 30 years of economic renewal, but if you go there, I mean, I visited their cities, very advanced, economy growing fast. You look at South Korea, but Kenya only recently are starting to catch up, and they're doing exceptionally well, as you've just read out earlier on. Now, in this country, we are so blessed, if I may use that word, in terms of resources, in terms of land. We have something that most Europeans and Asian people don't have. We have land, huge land, and we should use that to grow our economy, but also to pay more attention on the creation of new wealth. So it's something that we must pay a lot of attention on. And then and one of the things is what we do. We ridicule people who are clever, who are educated. Those who are rich, we don't even ridicule them. We insult them, and that's wrong. Because those are people who are sustaining us in terms of
jobs.
Yes, you know, and also we are obsessed with certain terminologies. White monopoly capital. What is that?
Yes, please. This is something we've been discussing,
Yes.
the listeners and I. Does it exist?
I say that,
Because I don't see it anywhere.
Yes.
Because monopoly means one.
Yes.
It means only one person produces these bottles of water that we... And I don't know of any private company in today's South Africa where there's only one producer,
Agreed.
except for the state.
Yes.
So
Yes.
does white monopoly capital exist?
I will say it doesn't exist, and people associate it with the West, Western Europe and America. But it's interesting when Minister Malobeki Gaba got appointed as a Minister of Finance. Where did he go? He went to America. He didn't go to some
Didn't go to Venezuela.
socialist dominated
Or
country.
Cuba.
So we get absorbed into this. To me, it's propaganda. It's to say to the people, we as politicians, we are not the problem. The problem is some imaginary entity called white monopoly capital.
But I know this isn't your party's rhetoric, but my question becomes, this discovery of this white monopoly capital 23 years into democracy, I mean, why only now?
Because it happens elsewhere when those who are in government think that stakes are against them. Stakes are very high. They should point a finger to somebody. So in Germany, Hitler pointed the fingers to the Jews. In Uganda, when Amin was still a leader,
It was the Indians.
yes. Now here we've got this imaginary thing called white monopoly capital. So we don't deal with the real issues. The real issue is that we, the politicians, are failing in terms of formulating policies that will grow agriculture, that will encourage manufacturing. Manufacturing is dying, and it's dying before our eyes, and that is a problem. Mining also is on its knees. So almost all our sectors are in trouble.
Now, the mining is on its knees, and yet we are still the most richly endowed country in the world when it comes to the minerals under the ground, because 70% of the world's platinum is here.
Yes.
90-something% of the world's manganese and chromium is here. So why is mining on its knees?
Is because of the unfriendly policies and laws. I'll give you an example. If you are going to be doing mining, you must provide housing for the workers. You should do that, you should do that, you should do that. Of course, you've got obligations to an employer. But we must go beyond that. We must say, once the employer has done that, employees, you must also do 1, 2, 3, 4. Productivity. Nobody talks about productivity.
Yes, we were talking about this with the listeners the other day, that there's all this talk about radical economic transformation, this monopoly capital, that monopoly capital. But in all this noise, we're not hearing anybody talking about growing the
Yes.
economy
Yes.
so that there's more jobs. We're not hearing about improving healthcare. We're not hearing about how do we equip
Yes.
our school children for the for the economy, want to be job creators and not always job seekers. We're not hearing that coming out. All we're hearing is it's someone else's fault.
Yes. So also we need to teach our people to be responsible. So in terms of productivity, workers' productivity, we're bad. So what discourages other countries to come and invest here? People say our salaries are too high. That's another issue altogether. But our level of productivity. So if we go down to the mine, how much stuff do we dig out per day? Maybe talking about salaries, I'm saying people should be paid well. I'm saying that. That's bottom line. But I'm saying there should be a match between salary and productivity.
Okay.
So instead of saying this is your salary per week or per month, we must say this is your salary per the output. Especially where you deal with tangible things. So you produced this far, we pay you this far. That way we can put more demands on the employer because anyway the productivity levels are high. So all of us, so the employer and the workers have got responsibility to get the mining working. Now the employer must do 1, 2, 3, 4. We never say,
we don't hear what the employee must do.
And they strike within a small irritation. And this company is already in its knees, you are going on strike. It's a problem.
So we can't, that keeps investors away.
Yes, yes, it's a problem. And the other thing is the feeling of entitlement. I'll tell you what happened in Exaro. They gave workers shares.
Oh, yes, I remember that one.
So this is your shareholding. That was good. This is your shareholding, number one. Number two, part of the money, we know you want housing. We know some of you have got children who have to go to university. We are going to cash some of the money. So average worker got 150,000 cash.
That's
shares.
over and above their salaries.
Within 3 months, the money was finished. And the workers wanted to go on strike. To go on strike for more money and for salary increments. Remember that they've got shares. They are shareholders. Who are they striking against?
Themselves.
It's a problem. So we've got instead of producing, we consume too much. We consume.
But is it not because the discourse that politicians are putting out there is that it's somebody else's fault and you are entitled to it?
Yes, it is. Actually, being a politician is a very a tough job. It's a tough calling. I don't think most of us politicians have a sense of that. Actually, the word minister comes out of you are ministering. You are saving. You're not the boss.
Like the religious context.
Yes, like religious says. You are saving and ministering. You are the one who do the worst job to wash the feet. Now, most politicians think I'm the boss. It's vice versa. It's vice versa.
Kofifi, we are here with Dr. Dagada, the MMC for Finance in the city of Joburg. We haven't spoken about junk status and its effects on COJ because he is a politician, and we need to speak about what we call the political economy because he operates in that space. But we need to talk about junk status. Your article, you were talking about how our debt has been steadily increasing since around 2010. Now, this man that I'm talking to, Dr. Dagada, is the man responsible for the 73 billion,
No, 66
66
billion.
billion budget of the city of Joburg. Now, you were talking about how our debt has been increasing, and I saw in 1 year it actually increased by 15%.
Yeah.
And I asked myself, but where's the money going to that's being borrowed?
So,
Because
yeah.
I don't see huge public works programs or anything.
So ideally, when you borrow money, that money should go to capital expenditure, infrastructure, maintenance of that infrastructure, repairs, new infrastructure. But we don't nationally. We borrow money to pay salaries.
What?
Yes.
But
So
that's the worst thing
it
anybody
is.
can do,
it's what I was telling you
because
earlier
those
on.
salaries have no returns.
No, consumption. We're into
Yes.
consumption. So everybody else in Asia, South Korea, Japan, China, they are obsessed about producing and growing. We are obsessed with consumption. Yes, and that's the
They're
problem. So,
here now.
yes, so we borrow money to pay salaries, and that's why the national debt is ballooning. But however, I can tell you in the city of Johannesburg, we will borrow some money. Our financial year starts beginning of July. So around the 23rd of July, May, somewhere there, we will be presenting the budget speech. And once the budget speech has been approved, we will produce what is called a funding plan. So already we know that 20% of our budget, just less than 20%, is the money we get from the province and the national government. And then 6% more we borrow. But that money, the money that we are going to borrow, we are going to strictly use it for infrastructure development, repairs and maintenance, no salaries.
Okay, yeah. So we'll be able to see and touch where that money has gone to.
Yes. So we're not going to pay telephone bills. Anything that is operational won't be funded by debt. The debt we are going to borrow money for is for capital expenditures, for infrastructure, repairs and maintenance.
Now, at this time of the year, the city of Joburg's not my favorite entity, because this is the time when you start telling us about all the increases that we're going to be paying. And I was reading it this morning. But there's a process where people can contribute and object.
Yes.
How do they do that?
So as we're talking now, our draft budget's out there. So if you go to our website, if you come to our offices, you can have access. So you can write to your local councillor, you can write to us, any of us, our offices. We actually take that seriously. Then you have associations who say we are property developers. Rates are going too high. They come as an association to meet us. Then you've got residential associations. They come to us. But we're changing the way we work. We go to people.
Oh, yes, okay.
As you know, we have inherited a billing crisis.
Yes.
I jump in the car and go to the customer who got a bill for 400,000.
You go.
Yes, and it doesn't mean that the customer, when I arrive, they'll be nice, but they'll insult me as part of the job. But when we're about to leave, they'll say, this has never happened. We appreciate the fact that you...
We're the MMC.
Yes.
For us, listeners, for us to understand the import of the MMC going to see the client, is that, we've spoken about the three different spheres of government. We've said there's national, there's provincial, and there's local government. Now, when we're talking local government, the MMC is your minister. So this is your Minister of Finance for the city of Joburg. And he's taking it upon himself to personalize this thing of going to resolve matters on his own. And that's the personal touch. And if you are listening, please take note who this MMC is, because your MMCs are your closest level of government to you and me as citizens, because they are the ones that make sure we have water, we have electricity. When you want to build your house, where you go and submit your plans, when you've got those unruly neighbors that want to have raucous parties until the early hours of the morning, it's the bylaws that come into effect. The bylaws are your local government's laws. And like national government, where they have a parliament, local government has what they call a council, which is their parliament where they pass laws as well. And Dr. Dagada is our MMC for finance. Now, Doctor, I saw that you, excuse me, I have to take a sip of water. I've got some scratches in my throat. I saw that one of the things that you're trying to do because of junk status is to try and source money locally. Where, how, and why?
The thing is, in as much as we have now been declared junk status formally now, for the past 18 months, the market had already
indicated.
Yes, they were already treating us as if we are a junk status. So that's why for 2016-2017 budget, we couldn't raise money from your normal banks, your retailing banks, your Standard Bank, ABSA, Nedbank, I mean those.
Oh my
So
word.
we had to go to a development financier, like World Bank, International Monetary Fund, but we did it locally. So we went to the Development Bank of Southern Africa. That's where we could get a better deal. Had we decided to issue a bond, maybe the appetite of the market was very low. But the city itself is well rated by the rating agency, but we are under review now. But usually, in previously, elsewhere in the world, where the national government is downgraded, automatically the municipalities get downgraded.
Like the banks as well.
It will be a miracle if we don't get
Downgraded.
But it will affect the how we borrow money, but also the debt will become very expensive to service.
So basically you're going to be forced to borrow locally.
Yes,
But
usually.
South Africans are bad savers. So there's no such a thing as local money then. Because I know you went to the DBSA,
Yes.
but wasn't the DBSA also, there was that company last year that basically junked them as well. So
Yes.
where are they going to get money from?
We may get money from international financial institutions as long as they also operate locally,
Okay.
and the debt will be in rands. We make sure it's in
Okay,
rands.
it's a rand denominated debt.
Yes,
So
yes.
then we won't be subject to foreign currency fluctuations.
Yes.
Okay, that'll give you more certainty.
Yes, but you said something very important, that we don't save. Yes, why? We consume. If somebody gave me a lift to come here, some of the cars that I drive are very, very small. Now, people will be saying, you can't drive that. If you say I can't drive that because of safety, I will listen. But mostly it's because you are the MMC, you must drive the biggest car in the world, and that's our problem. So we don't save.
We want to impress others.
Yes, and if somebody sees me with a Nokia phone, it's a big issue because you can't be MMC and you've got Nokia.
Oh my word.
And that's our biggest problem as a country. We consume too much, and I think we need to start to move away from consumption and save. But still, we do have a huge savings on pensions.
But that's forced saving.
Yes, but if we politicians don't behave properly, those pensions will disappear.
That's what I'm
Like in
very
Zimbabwe.
worried about. I'm very worried about that. Now, we were talking about the fact that in Zimbabwe now they must use goats and sheep to get bank loans, and that's because there's no money left. Now, I know the state pension fund under the PIC is one of the biggest pool of money, but we are now junk status. And do you think there'll be a temptation to start going into the civil servants pension fund by politicians?
We think so. We think one of the reasons why the Minister Godan was removed, together with his deputy, was for some politicians to have more influence in PIC, so that PIC can fund their projects. So I'm a politician. I'm associated with people who do road constructions. But the government says you can't, there's no money to build that road or that nuclear infrastructure. So PIC may fund that infrastructure. So remember, the PIC board is chaired by the Deputy Minister of Finance.
Which was Mcebisi Jonas.
That's
who
a
got
very
fired.
powerful position. Yes. So that's what our suspicion, that some people may want to have their hand in that patient. But other than that, if we get more downgrades, then the value of those patients will decline. So that's what happened. So even if the government were to not touch the money, it will lose its value. I mean, in Zimbabwe, it totally disappeared.
Yeah.
And they've lost it. It won't come back. It's a problem.
I think for us to understand what junk status means, maybe we need to look at Zimbabwe and Venezuela more, because basically they have no money.
Yes.
They don't even have a currency for that matter anymore.
Yes.
There's no Zim dollar anymore.
No.
So if we know, and it all started with taking people's expropriation without compensation.
Yes.
And it led to using chickens and goats as collateral. Now, why do you think we were reduced to junk status?
Politics, and politics. It was because the political risk became too high, number one. Number two, we're very bad in terms of public policy. So if you look at, since 2011, we've got contradictory policy pronouncements. So you have other departments that say ministers say we need strong rand, so that when we import things they're cheaper, and others say no, the rand must be weaker. We don't have an integrated industrial strategy. So we've got huge land, we've got minerals, we've got huge population that is unemployed. That unemployed population should be used as a resource. We must employ them to create jobs, but we don't. So it's politics.
Oh, God. When your party, in coalition with your partners, took over the running of the city of Joburg, the mayor, the executive mayor, said that he wants to see, or he will see, the city grow by 5%. But now here we are junk. How does that affect the ability to deliver on that mandate?
It may become, but some people, when the mayor said that, they laughed, they ridiculed him. But we did our research. We found that when we took over the government, when the city spend more money on infrastructure projects, there's a direct correlation to the economic development. So when the city spend more, the economy of Johannesburg grows more. So we have huge influence. I think that's what the mayor was saying that. But also, the economy of Johannesburg is always 2% higher than that of the national. So when President Mbeki was in the office around 2005, the national economy was growing at 5%.
And it went up to 7%.
Yes, and then the Gauteng economy was around 7%. Johannesburg was around 10%.
Wow.
So, because even now, it's hovering towards 2%.
Okay. And the national one is 0.1.
Yes. However, assuming we don't get further downgrades, by 2021 we can still achieve that 5%. If we don't get further downgrades, we can still achieve that, because so far the reaction in the market is not bad. The rand is not, we thought the rand will immediately crash. It's not crashing. I think it's because the market had already regarded us as downgraded anyway, yes, as being junk.
They'd factored it in already.
Yes, so the rand is still fairly doing well. We are not seeing immediate capital flight companies leaving Johannesburg and the country. So if politicians can behave, if it doesn't get worse than this.
When you say politicians can behave, what do you mean?
Most politicians are not behaving properly. So we're sending, the hawks to the Minister of Finance. As I'm talking to you now, the current Minister of Police and the hawks chief are fighting. The other one took the phone and the car and disappeared. And so there's a lot of drama. So we don't want this drama. The drama must come to an end, and we must serve people as politicians. When we go to community meetings, there's violence.
Oh, yes, we spoke about that
That's
the other day.
not good for democracy.
I didn't understand why there was blood on the floor when physical blood on the floor, not and it's not figurative. It was real blood on the floor. When I thought that it's a contestation of ideas, I didn't realize that sitting in Parliament now becomes a blood sport.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. So that has to stop. But large problems of South Africa, in my view, this is my thumb-suck estimation. If we sort out our politics, 80% of our socio-economic problems will disappear. The problem is with political leadership. As I said to you earlier on, I don't think most of us do appreciate the responsibility of being politicians. The other thing is, the powers of politicians, especially in national government, is problematic. The powers of the president. And I think why we gave the president those powers, in our heads, we thought a typical president will always be somebody like Mandela. Yes. And that's why we gave the president such a lot of powers. You were earlier on, when you were describing that the MMC is actually a minister locally, and the council is a parliament, something came to my mind. By the way, the council has got far more powers. The council is a local parliament, far much powers than the national parliament.
Oh.
For example, if the mayor were to fire somebody very senior, let's say the city manager, he can't do it. He doesn't have those powers. He has to go to the council and make a case. And if the city manager were to resign and we have to replace, the mayor has to go to the council and say, I've got this candidate. No, firstly, can you please allow me to go out and appoint this person, the city manager?
He has to ask for permission first.
Yes.
Oh.
This is good. I like it.
How come there's so much democracy at local government level and yet not at national?
Yes. Then I don't know, but it prevents lots of abuse.
Yes.
But if you look at our salaries also, most employees earn far more than us. And I like it. I like it because then I can get the best ever engineer. I've got no excuse not to deliver. I can get the best ever person. Now, even after doing the interviews, the mayor must go back to the council and say, we have interviewed 3 people, put their CVs. We appointed this one. This is the CV. These are the reasons. Council, can you appoint? They say yes. I wish it was like that also in the national government. So that there's more democracy.
You know, when you were talking about salaries, I actually thought of the Minister for, is it Water and Sanitation, Nomvula Mokonyane, one of those who celebrated us being reduced to junk status. And I was thinking to myself, here's this woman, she earns almost 2 million a year. She can afford to think that this is a joke because we taxpayers are paying her almost 2 million a year. But what about us ordinary folk?
Yes.
I mean, do you think South African politicians have become arrogant?
Yes. Actually, yes. But as you know, as they say, the fall is preceded by arrogance. So before a huge fall, one becomes very arrogant. But I've got no doubt that this country will be able to steer through this turbulence, and that those arrogant politicians, very soon they'll be out of way. We're going to have the real public servants who are there to serve.
The recent disruptions of the IDPs, I know I'm making you answer for everybody's portfolio, but as I said earlier on, you've got a very big brain, so you can answer for everybody. But I've got people that also want to talk to you here. This one is personal. Good day, this person. Good day. I'm struggling to make arrangements to pay off my municipal bill. Willing to pay off monthly, but don't have the 50% as requested. Please advise. Interesting conversation, Rosemary, from Nikki. So why must they pay 50%?
We've done away with that.
Oh, there you go.
It's not reasonable. Because what if I owe
400,000?
Yes, it's not reasonable. We are saying, come to us. We may require you to bring something that proves to us, you know what, I'm paying this much school fees and this and that, and you are able to demonstrate that. What we require as a deposit will be reasonable. So that's what we are doing now.
Okay, so it'll be tailored to your means.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the person that wrote about, because the fact that I'm in debt, that I haven't been paying, means that in most cases was because I couldn't afford to, but now I'm saying I can. Please provide me with terms. So that 50% requirement is no longer applicable.
No.
I can now come in and negotiate based on my circumstances.
Yes.
No, that's very useful. That's why we have you here. Do you want to enlighten, because there must be other innovations you've come up with as the MMC for Finance. Do you want to discuss any of them?
I should say that one of our biggest weakness has been customer care. So I feel embarrassed to use the word customer, but so we have residents and then we've got customers. So you can be a resident without being a customer. Usually the person we describe as a customer is a person who has a property, so we send them a bill, so we call them customers. One of our biggest weakness in the city has been customer care, and that's why, I mean, in the first instance, why did somebody came up with a 50% requirement? That's bad customer care. I've had our statements is something that I'm fixing now. It's very difficult to understand your bill when it comes for water.
Yes.
So what people do, don't even look at the whole bill. They just look at whether the money required is too much, or because the bill must indicate what makes up the total figure. You can't understand. The statement you can't understand. So it's not user friendly. And also, I've had instances where a person says, I'm a single mother. So December we went to Polokwane to visit our parents. Me and my son went to visit my parents in Polokwane. I come back. I don't have any pipes that are pipe burst or whatever. They're fine. There are no plumbing issues. But I got the bill from the city. Early January, it's 50,000 rands. And I'm saying I couldn't have spent 50,000 rands when we were away with my son. But even if we were here, we couldn't have spent
What would you be using 50,000?
And then I've heard some of our managers saying, ma'am, please pay 50,000.
Yes, that's the attitude, actually.
Or we will come and disconnect.
Yes.
But I don't have 50,000 rands. We will come and disconnect. It can't be right.
No, but also just as a sane, normal person, that official, what do they think? What are they using so much water on? You'll find that person that was in Polokwane doesn't have a swimming pool, doesn't have a big garden. They use water for bathing, cooking, So you as a rational person, that official, should be questioning, why do they have such a high bill first? But the attitude we get is do it or we cut you off.
Yes, which is wrong. It can't be. You see, especially because we've had the billing crisis. But some of the things that I'm negotiating with the mayor and my colleagues is that reading of the meters must be done by group finance. Now it's done by Joburg Water will go and read for water, and then the meters for electricity by City Power. Then they will bring that information to group finance, and then we issue statements and invoices that have wrong information. And I'll tell you why the information is wrong. It's wrong because a guy sat under a tree and go through the Facebook the whole day. Then he thinks, I was supposed to have gone to 200 houses, and he start to thump suck the numbers.
Literally. And then you'll just write.
Now, that 50,000 is not because some computer made a mistake or some our system. Somebody thumb-sucked the number. But yes, we are also negligent because when that bill of 400,000 arrives, you must start to ask question. I wouldn't even send it to the customer. 400,000.
That's
I'll say something's not right here. So what we need to do, we need to lower. We do a lot of estimations. My ambition is that within the next 18 months from this day we started to govern, that is August last year, per month we should be able to read 95% of the homes, the properties, like extra reading, not estimations. We are estimating, and that's a problem.
Here, as I said, we're interactive. Good afternoon, Rosemary and Dr. Dagada. Can the MMC please ask the staff at Tuso House to treat people with respect? They have no way of speaking to us.
That's what I was saying. We are very bad with the customer care, And by the way, these are the people who are paying our salaries. These are the bosses. They pay our salaries. They get the city running. They should be treated better.
Good day, guys. Please, oh please, this person's on their knees. Could someone come from heaven to rid us from these corrupt politicians? Okay, this one is just basically...
But let me comment to that. Let me comment to that. Nobody will come from heaven. Voters must vote us out when we are corrupt. Yes.
So, the person's complaining about the high price and everything else and saying rates must fall. But the truth is, at the end of the day, we have to pay. Yes. And how do you determine rates?
So what happens is we inherit... this high price, they are too high, by the way, I must say that. For example, water, I think we're increasing water by 12%. It's ridiculous.
It's very high.
It's higher than the inflation rate.
Yeah. Basically, look, even if I only have my fridge and my freezer on, I still consume 40, is it kilojoules of electricity?
Yeah. So it's too high, but it's because it is passed to us by Joburg, by rainwater. So we only add little 2-point basis. So most of these increments are passed on to us by the likes of rainwater and Eskom.
Oh.
We add maybe little 1-point basis or 2-point basis so that we can recover our cost also.
Okay, yes. All right. Now, this person, it's not for you.
Yes.
Because this person is in Ekurhuleni.
Yes.
But Ekurhuleni clearly doesn't have Kofifi there. But if they're saying their bill is 4,000 Rand, I can only pay a small amount because I'm not working. They were so rude at council that I must pay or else I will be cut off and I won't be able to buy lights. Unfortunately, this listener, our MMC today is from the city of Joburg and not Ekurhuleni. I don't know, maybe off air or something, maybe we can talk to Ekurhuleni, I don't know. But it's a different entity altogether. And unfortunately, MMC Dagada cannot run Ekurhuleni as well. He only runs COJ. Now, I want to know the costs, because there's a cost factor to junk status. As you say, it had already been factored in. So we didn't have all the things that could have happened, but they could still happen.
Yes.
What are the things that could happen?
What could still happen is that we can be downgraded further. So now, if you look at S&P, they've only downgraded our foreign currency, not local. If they downgrade the local one, and Moody's do the same, but over and above that, we get further downgraded. Then we have sold this country. I'll tell you what I mean. We'll lose our pride, independence, and sovereignty. Nobody will want to borrow us money. It will also actually become illegal. So most people who borrow us money, the investors, they sign what is called mandate by the owners of the money. It will become illegal to borrow us money. So where will we get money? From the IMF, International Monetary Fund. They will come us up with lots of conditionalities. They will say, the first thing, Mr. President, why should your cabinet have
76 ministers? We
think based on this and this and this model, it must only be 20 ministers. And why, Mr. President, your convoy, you've got 8 cars and lots of motorbikes. So we'll lose our independence. But what can lead to this? What can lead to this is if we pursue that nuclear thing, they'll downgrade us further.
So besides the nuclear thing, I mean, I don't get it. We were being warned constantly that if we don't get our house in order, we are going to be downgraded. And yet, we still allowed it. Well, basically, the politicians still did it. Why?
Because...
do they disrespect us as citizens?
I nearly said yes. Yes, it's bad. Because, you see, consumption is a problem in this country. So we want to be rich. You can't. If you want to be rich, be an entrepreneur like Petrus Mutsipe. You can't come to politics. So somebody owns a mine, and they're close to us, and they promise to take care of us, and that mine produces uranium. So nobody's buying it. What we do, we start a nuclear project. And that's a problem. But remember, it will cost over 1 trillion rands.
So basically, they've sold us out.
Yes. So it costs over 1 trillion rands. Now, the moment we say we are pursuing that project, it means the fiscals will be burdened. They'll downgrade us further.
Oh, my word. Unfortunately, our time is up and we haven't scratched the surface yet. You know, you are going to be the first MMC from the COJ for me to interview. And there were some gremlins in the system last year, and you couldn't come. After your budget speech, can I book you? Now.
You are the first one I'll give interview to.
Closing words to the citizens.
I want to say that I want to focus on billing, which makes our citizens, but particularly Johannesburg residents, very, very angry. I looked at what has gone wrong. This thing has been there since 1996. And I'm saying to our customers, to our residents, give us only 18 months. Not from today, 18 months from last August. We will have resolved this.
Dr. Dagada, MMC for Finance from the city of Joburg, we thank you, and we thank you for all your insights, and we look forward to seeing you in May.
Yes, thank you.
My friends, thank you for letting us into your homes, your offices, and your cars. This is Conversations with Rosemary signing out.
Thank you.